It started obviously with that Tom Tancredo interview. I think you remember what Tom Tancredo had to say that's made all the headlines and been talked about on all the Sunday morning talk shows. But then just a couple of days after, I reached out to former Speaker Tom DeLay. And the question I wanted to ask him was whether someone should stand up, you know, in the Republican Party and say, guys, let's look for some moderation here. Let's stop sounding so vehement about Sonia Sotomayor. I honestly, cross my heart, expected that Tom DeLay would take up that role. Instead, to my surprise, he went the other way. And during our interview, began sounding off against not just Sonia Sotomayor, but the two biggest Hispanic activist organizations in the United States. Here, take a listen.
Well, RASA and LULAC don't speak for the Hispanics that I know. And they're a bunch of radical leftists that try to make the world believe that they speak for Hispanics.
Well, our phone started hooking right after, or our phone started ringing off the hook right after a lot of folks heard that, pardon me. The other side obviously wanting to be heard and to remain as journalistically sound as we try to be. We want to give them an opportunity now to respond to that because they weren't here at the time that charge was made. Brent Wilkes is the National Executive Director of LULAC, and he's good enough to join us now. Mr. Wilkes, I bet you were taken aback when you heard that.
We were outraged by that comment, Rick, because it's just flat out wrong. Tom DeLay doesn't know what he's talking about. LULAC is a mainstream organization. We represent 115,000 Hispanic Americans from all walks of life, including Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives. And we have been supportive of Hispanics to the judiciary, whether they're Republican or Democrat, including Miguel Estrada, which Tom DeLay seems to think we weren't, but we were there. He wasn't, by the way. We supported Miguel Estrada. I don't recall Tom DeLay going out of his way to help Miguel Estrada. Now we've got a wonderful justice in Sonia Sotomayor. She's eminently qualified, really a pretty moderate justice, and we are supporting her as well, and for that we get attacked by a guy like Tom DeLay. That was unnecessary, and we're outraged.
Why would he do that? Well, I mean, what's going on here? For what reason would he want to create this rift or this void between a Hispanic organization like your own, which I'm sure your organization can be criticized for positions that you've held in the past? We all could. But his point seemed to be broader than that. Can you apply any kind of motive to it?
You know, I don't think there's any rational motive to it. He is really hurting the Republican Party if that's who he represents, because
But why would he do that? That doesn't, look, it doesn't make any sense. Why would a guy like Tom DeLay, and you heard Newt Gingrich apologize today, why would they hate the party that they used to be such not hate the party, why would they hurt, pardon me, I misspoke, the party that they used to be a part of? They're creating a problem for the guys who are wearing that R after their names now, who are trying to get elected, aren't they?
All I can think is that they missed the limelight. They're trying to get back in it by saying something outrageous. And, you know, I think there's a hidden bias in these folks. I mean, it's shocking to hear what happened with Tancredo and his Political Action Committee director. These folks may have been harboring all this time an animosity towards minority communities, and it's scary to think that they were at the center of power here in Washington.
Finally, well, you know, again, let's be fair about this. So a lot of the guys who are in the GOP right now, they were on the Sunday morning talk shows. They have been very moderate about this. And while not necessarily being highly critical of the guys who have made these statements, they're not endorsing them in any way, shape, or form. So let's not be Republican beater-uppers here while we're doing this. Do you want an apology from him? Have you reached out to him and said, you sir, owe my organization an apology?
You know what? I don't think I want an apology from him. What we do want to have is to have the mainstream of the Republican Party distance themselves from these guys, tell them to back off and shut up. I mean, the problem is...
You don't think they've done that enough?
I don't think so, not at all. I've watched those Sunday shows, and Rick, I don't think they distance themselves.
Well, McConnell says, look, it's not my job to be speech police. That's what he said.
They have to guard their brand. The Republican brand is an important brand for them, and they're letting these guys pollute it with really discrimination and a very strong animosity towards Latinos. That's going to hurt them, and he's got to defend that brand. Yeah. And he's got to be more aggressive. You know, I do have to give credit to John Cornyn. He did step up and say, let's have a civil discourse. The rest of them haven't been as aggressive. They need to say, you know what, if they want to say those kind of things, they're not in our party anymore.
Let's leave it at this, and I think this is probably the best thing that we can do, that I can do as the host of this newscast every day. any opportunity will be accepted here on this show for anyone who can represent the party fairly to come forward and say, this is what our position needs to be, and this is what we need to tell people who may be acting a little too vehemently and saying things that aren't going over very well with organizations like your own. Brent Wilkes, you got a chance to respond. There it is. National Executive Director of LULAC. We thank you, sir, for taking time to talk to us.